Hello everyone, my name is Montel. Welcome to our live stream on artificial intelligence in human resource applications. By itself, artificial intelligence works very much like sugar. It's just sweet. And for that reason, it's very hard to be taken back once it's been out there. And it helps covering up problems we don't know how to solve yet. Because in human resource management, we usually are facing a high-stakes environment. There are many crucial details which are not easy to be understood by one single person. And there are as many possible drawbacks as there are possible benefits to each side. If in such an environment you would like to implement an artificial intelligence structure, this works like kind of a magnifying glass on underlying issues, like, for example, issues of how to distribute wealth and availability of rare resources in a fair manner, how to tackle fairness problems, how to tackle power problems, and so on and so on. And in such an environment, we would like to contribute to a productive discussion by providing a stage to people who prove to be kind, sensitive, and positive in their overall nature, who are capable of dealing with complex matters, and who are willing to develop, to share, and to discuss ideas. So if this rings some bells to you and some people came to mind, please let us know who that was or who you want to be interviewed in this format by dropping us an email to livestream@eligo.de. You can do the same thing if you have questions, comments, concerns, if you want to share ideas or want to give feedback, or if you have questions on how to sign up at www.eligo.de/livestream. When I was describing the criteria people have to meet when they come here, I was actually hitting a bit on my first guest, Klaus Lassert. So please welcome my first guest in my live stream, Dr. Klaus Lassert. So I'm thrilled to have you here. Could you tell our viewers a bit about your personal background, your education, and what brought you here?
First of all, thanks for having me. It's an honor, Christian. So my background, I'm an organizational psychologist.
Okay, so an expert with regard to, say, involving new ideas.
One could say so, maybe. Above all, I see myself as a tactical psychologist. I support leaders and corporations in their tactical challenges, be that negotiations, conflict internally, externally, internationally. So I prepare people, let's say, for their next upcoming overwhelming challenge or tricky battle.
And do you think that among those challenges, sometimes artificial intelligence shows up?
It's a very good point. First of all, right now, in the way we're working towards those challenges, AI comes up as a helper because we're using AI-based tools for tactical support. But certainly, companies see vast change ahead. Okay. And under the headline of digitization, there's already been, of course, change projects which needed help and support, even though I think the scope of change and the scope of digitization that is ahead is much larger than anything we did during the last years under that headline.
And could you be so kind, within the levels of confidentiality you are required to keep, like to elaborate a bit on what's actually your business? What are you doing? What kind of services are you offering? What are your customers? So it's up to you how much you can and want to tell us, but or our viewers, but I would love to learn more about this.
All right, so my customers are corporations all over the world. I operate in Europe, in Asia, also the Americas. And basically what we're doing is, first of all, analyzing what the challenges are in a given tactical situation, be that internal change or, let's say, negotiations between two corporations or corporations and governments or governments.
Okay.
And the analysis part is important because people need to or want to understand better what's going on, want to understand better what's being played and why things are so difficult. And then on that basis, which is in that psychological analysis, We create a tactical manual for the whole corporation or the group of key players that's involved, could be small or a large group, and run an empowerment program to make sure that everyone in the next round knows exactly what they're doing and is much more confident while they're doing it. Also being much more confident while they're doing it as a team.
That's absolutely awesome. I know very well that you're not so much into bragging, but can you tell our viewers on what kind of level these things are taking place you're talking about right now? What kind of managerial level or something?
Oh, I mean, that can go through the whole company. Of course, that kind of thing, that kind of program, you can only do if you have the board on board of this. And if there's a real interest in the board to invest into company-wide empowerment or empowerment on that level, that's crucial. The key is people need to see that there's an enormous impact, obviously, on the margin, on their revenue, depending on how they handle sometimes minute situations. So a small tactical situation can mean that two wrong words or one sentence spoken or not spoken makes a difference between a huge sum of millions or billions even in terms of the result of the whole thing. And once people see that, it's a very simple calculation what you should do in terms of preparing yourself.
Sounds a bit as if, say, empathy and real sensitivity with regard to what is actually meant to be done is crucial. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, sensitivity, understanding what's going on in a specific moment between myself and my counterpart, or within the team, or within my team and the team on the other side. Absolutely. Which, by the way, it's kind of, this is one of the key motivators I had personally to choose the path I chose with psychology, including clinical psychology, conflict mediation. I wanted to, for myself, to understand better what is actually going on between people while they're talking. Like what's really going on while they're interacting, and helping people see those hidden dynamics. That's a huge part of my job, actually, of the service, because that's usually a huge part of solving the problem or improving the tactics.
So that's a very interesting part you just mentioned. What's really going on when people are talking in the context of projects to implement and stuff. As you know, we'd like to focus on artificial intelligence right now. What comes to mind when you think it's important what really is going on when people talk about projects in that context?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because in any corporation, people need to talk about what is the current trend. Okay, so you need to talk about agility, totally independent of whether you do software or not, or if you are actually intending to if it makes any sense to have any agile processes or not. The same, of course, is true for digitization, and of course now for AI. By now, you have to say that you're doing it, that you're using it. That's totally clear. The question is, first of all, are you just saying it? And is your intention to do anything that somehow serves as something which you can show for it? And even if you have a real plan of actually using it, what's your idea of what an appropriate scope, etc., could be? And so I'm thinking, I mean, that's also something that has been that I've been observing for years. People in different countries, for example, different cultures, have different understanding of what would be a reasonable user application of anything. And take something as simple as time management, for example. That's long ago, but really long ago, 20 years ago, I did stuff already on training up for managers and time management. And what was the European idea of what the solution to most your time management related problems are? Of course, saying no more often. Right? What was the idea of my Asian participants, what the solution to that would be? And finding a tech tool that helps you organize your your day, right? So there are two totally different ideas where this goes. And of course, this trend of seeing a solution to your real life problems in technology or not has kind of continued. So yeah, sorry.
If I may interrupt at that point, because this is such a stunning, interesting point. Are you saying that there is a difference between, say, the formal implementation of an artificial intelligence, say, as for an example, dealing with time management issues, and there is a cultural dimension to it in how people, say, face or approach conflicts and stuff? Can you elaborate a bit of that?
Yeah.
Want a bit of that?
Yeah, so there is certainly a cultural dimension. And I'm thinking of another example where maybe that could fit in. We that's 12 years ago, developed a feedback system, a digitally based feedback system for managers and staff. It was based on the demands defined by a European company. The first company I almost sold it to was a Chinese company. And the CEO said it could be a way of encouraging a feedback culture, or establishing a feedback culture without anyone having to give face-to-face feedback to anyone. So it's one way of enabling feedback through kind of this aspect of anonymity.
Okay.
He then came to the conclusion, though, that his management is not yet far enough on the path of accepting giving feedback at all. So he scratched it.
To what extent were your customers aware of it, and to what extent was it culturally acceptable to show them that they perhaps have some weak or blind spots?
I mean, he was very, like other Asian managers, he was very open on the whole issue of how can I get them to talk about what, and what's the framework? Do we need to get people to drink alcohol in order to be able to speak up? Do we need people to get people to stop drinking alcohol so that speaking up works better?
I like that approach with the alcohol a bit. Yeah, that's great.
And another company we actually did sell this system to. It was a German company who applied it, but then the thing was, it actually had a similar challenge, and there you see how the cultures are not so different, because they also liked the technology, and the challenge then was that it meant for an upper manager to invest 20 minutes a month to use the system to give feedback to a range of middle managers, and that was perceived as a too much of a time invest into giving feedback. And
actually, it sounds a bit as if, say, the basic problems HR is facing kind of stay the same to a very basic amount.
Yeah. It's not about the technology. It's about how do you perceive a valuable problem in something, and if you do, and then if you have technology that helps you with that problem, then you're gonna embrace it. If you perceive technology, whatever, as an extra time invest, it's not helping you with any problem you want solved, right?
Actually, my next question may come across a bit mean, but I heard people say implementing an HI structure might to some extent be a procrastination technique. What do you think about that?
So implementing what?
Implementing an AI structure like artificial intelligence and applied artificial intelligence may serve to an unconscious, to a strange level as a bit of procrastination.
It's an interesting point. Yeah, I mean, I would say that is true for anything you do in a company. What's the actual purpose? In systemic psychology, you speak of the secondary benefit of any problem. Okay, so you might start something new, it creates extra hassle, and it takes time and resources, and it prevents something else from moving on, from happening, from becoming transparent, from succeeding or failing. And whatever that other thing is, that's that happening or not happening, that's the secondary benefit of whatever you're doing. And that's not specific to AI. So certain general challenges. For example, is there even an alliance or a similarity between the corporate interests and the individual manager's interests? Maybe corporate HR wants a more established feedback culture. That could be a totally different motive from each individual manager's motivation to simply be left alone because they're already overworked, and the mere thought of whether with a tool or without a tool doing anything that costs them even 5 extra minutes is just too much. And those are just human needs in a corporation, and a corporation is a system that pitches an unsurmountable number of different human needs against each other, and then something will come out and it's very hard to control or even understand everything that's going on.
You're actually managing some of the challenges companies are facing, and perhaps we could also talk about the opportunities they are facing when they decide to implement an artificial intelligence strategy or even practice. Could you elaborate a bit more on that?
I mean, again, an AI strategy practically could mean anything. So in some way, let's say AI is coming our way, and from a corporate perspective or from a provider perspective, that has an impact. That has an impact on HR. For me personally, last year, getting in touch with ChatGPT, I first thought, okay, this and other stuff means that you don't need consultants anymore. Also, you don't need humans to create or deliver training anymore. Then my next thought was, the people who get this training consulting, they will be out of the job. Those jobs won't exist. And then I thought, no, they will keep their jobs, but communication in their jobs becomes a technological commodity, which they don't need themselves, which means that the trend, like people frantically wanting face-to-face communication instead of even this kind of online conversation, might shift to preferring a business communication through technology, because either someone can do the communication for you, which will give you so much more time, or you get enhanced communication skills through the platform you're on. And I think that's the first thing that's going to happen. And
could you elaborate on what do you mean by enhanced?
So let's take Microsoft's plans offering the Sales Copilot and other AI features in MS Teams, for example. MS Teams has a platform strategy, and Microsoft in general has a strategy of trying to lock people into their platforms, and they're certainly going to boost that, I'm sure, by offering AI enhancements. So we have an AR world in it, where the so augmented reality, not virtual reality, that's AR, where the platform through which you communicate is the enabler for the AR functionality. Because the next step after that would be that while we're interacting face-to-face, I would be supported by artificial intelligence in the way I speak with you. But that is a bit of a challenge. I know some crazy people in Zurich who are working on that right now. I'm involved in that project, and it's interesting from a perspective of tactical face-to-face interaction. But I think the first thing that's going to happen is that communication is produced or supported by AI, and it could create a shift towards preferring to communicate through a platform that helps with that. Saying any of this, I don't pretend to be a soothsayer. I don't know. Everything I say might be rubbish because it might just not happen, okay? But it could.
Yeah,
it could.
Yeah. I very much appreciate your modesty.
This to happen. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to outline that I very much appreciate your modesty. That's very nice. You're not required to act as a soothsayer here, so thank you very much for your insight anyway.
Yeah, but it's hard to say, but certainly it does play a role. And if I look into my own personal perspective, I think if you want to try to find out which kind of trends will pick up, it's a good way of just looking at your own behavior. So I've been using ChatGPT a lot this year. I've realized that it turned my car driving time, the time I drive my car, from lost time into very productive time because I have now someone to talk to. But
Okay.
that only works through the new audio function. I've got someone to talk to do stuff for me, to work out stuff for me. So suddenly that's a thing. And obviously, I realized that the quality of these conversations is very, very high. And I would not say that I would not, like myself or anybody else, necessarily delivers a better conversation than that. Obviously everyone likes conversing with ChatGPT because obviously it's the way you talk with it. That's how it talks back to you, right? So you can create the benefit you want. So there is that, and but then there are also the downsides of let's say the limitations of what you can do with AI. And these days, right now, but that's just, I mean, that's today, that might be different tomorrow. The limitation, of course, is in the interfaces. It's like with the metaverse, like it could only happen if everything is connected. But right now, I can, all the tasks which I'm happy doing, writing a text, that can be done by AI. Inventing a new concept, that can be done by AI. The stuff that I would love to get rid of, which is clicking through a PowerPoint presentation and making a change in every page, that stupid stuff, I have to do it.
Thank you so much. That's so nice to hear that in that outspoken way. Yeah.
And that brings up question. I'm sorry, I'm start babbling along, but all these questions of how will jobs change or so. Yeah, it's in the moment it's a bit hard to say. I mean, and also then what you do with that. So in the past, the steam engine, the weaving loom, the electricity, all of that, it destroyed jobs, but it also created new ones, and it's reshaping jobs. And I think in the past the trend has been jobs have become more cognitively challenging. You have to be smarter with your jobs. At the same time, the mere physical work was strongly reduced, obviously, a while ago, which I think gave birth to the fitness industry.
I'd like to follow up on this one a bit because you mentioned a very, very interesting triangle. You mentioned to destroy, to create, and reshape things. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. So let's take, as an example, let's take the world of music. Music production,
oh, that's
musicians.
Funny. Yeah.
So that's an interesting one because during the 20th century and during the last 20 years, instruments have become replicated as virtual instruments to an extent that's unbelievable. And it really takes an expert to tell the difference between a well-produced virtual instrument and a recording of a real instrument. Has this destroyed the jobs of musicians in orchestras? I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of orchestras and musicians out there these days, more than 200 years ago, I'm sure. But I'm not an expert on that. I'm just thinking about this. Has this reshaped the jobs of musicians? Yes. People who play instruments, yes. They're more, they would, partake in their own replication. It has created a huge number of composers. The number of composers has skyrocketed during the last 20 years. Now is the next step, because now it's not the music it's not the instruments that are getting simulated. It's the composer who gets simulated by AI. So I don't know where this goes. Probably composing will still be a thing, but again, different. Same in game development. You don't need to create all those dialogues anymore for your NPCs. And I remember now 5 years ago at Gamescom in Cologne speaking about that very topic with the inventor or the manager of Elder Scrolls? I think, and we were talking about this, what the big difference will be in production if dialogues of NPCs could be run by AI, which now is a thing as of this year. That again doesn't kill the gaming industry. It doesn't end it. It changes that. It may end some jobs. Also in all sorts of jobs in arts. Now let's look at the business again.
Yeah, if you allow me to give another like additional question,
Sure.
we were talking very much about the the destruction and the reshaping, but not so much about the creation. And what I find very interesting is, what's your, say, prediction on how the creation of new jobs would change?
Yeah. So again, I mean, just to say that again, I think composing jobs have been kind of created, and certainly the one job that has been created end of last year was the prompt engineer. So psychological prompt engineering is certainly a form of how my job is already being reshaped. I'm already engaging very, very much in psychological prompt engineering because other jobs are being reshaped, as in they have AI communicate for them. The question is, who inspires, drives AI in a way that it communicates in a way you want it to? And then, of course, for others, this might be a new job. So if you enter the job market now, my personal horizon I gave to myself, I'm thinking, but again, that may be a totally foolish view. It may be too short, too long. I'm thinking the next 5 years, I think in my job, I can kind of pedal along the way I do. After that, by then, I hope I have more of an idea of what will happen after that. Right? So neither do I see change tomorrow to such an extent, nor do I see Armageddon in the future. But there is going to be a certain amount of destruction, creation, and reshaping. And personally, I try to very actively reshape the way I support my customers using AI, AR, all the things we mentioned, and it works very, very well. At the same time, their realities change and they need to reshape their tactics. So it's I don't know even if those three things can be separated, not from a bird's view. Certainly an individual may have to very strongly adapt to a point of reshaping, to a point where you'd say, well, okay, my old job doesn't exist anymore. I have a new one now, whether that has gone along with changing jobs or just changing tasks. That, it's a very individual, depends on individual situations, I guess.
Thanks once again for sharing that insight. I'd like to stick to the opportunities for a bit longer.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what ideas and what predictions of development with regard to the HR work do you actually have? Could you give us some specific examples or something like that?
Okay. I mean, obviously there could be loads, and there are surely hundreds that I don't see. Okay. So for me, right now, finally, there is kind of the chance to create products that, first of all, include hyper-personalization. Any tool can now like in real time personalize to its user, personality-based, skill-based. That also means that I can kind of hyperscale myself as a consultant and make sure that a defined group of clients has 24/7 support of my own replication in a specific situation. Again, situation specific, individual, person specific. And that's great. And I think that is a way of multiplying benefit to users. And from a corporate perspective, you suddenly have so much more individual, real-time support 24/7. No language barriers, by the way, in this.
Okay.
And that, of course, for all sides is a multiplier of benefit. And that, of
so
course,
one of your predictions is there might be at some point an additional Klaus.
I hope there will be very, very soon. Okay. It's not that I necessarily see it as a blessing for the world if there's more of me, but let's say within a specific type of service, I would say it might serve a purpose to those who want it. But speaking of that, first of all, that is, by the way, it's something which other people will be able to do as well. I mean, also even working with that might be an interesting person for you to speak with, a somewhat crazy person in Bangladesh who's creating a platform for just that kind of service I just described. We're co-creating it actually for which other people could use as well. But what I was going to say is that one always has to bear in mind that a product is only as good as it is perceived as it being used for right now by its target group. And I realize that right now, very simple solutions are embraced and are seen as a real benefit. And as soon as any product you offer affords any IT skill or any extra time in learning how to use it, people won't use it. And I don't blame them for it. I'm the same. I want plug and play right now. No need to learn anything. No need to understand anything. It needs to work. Otherwise, even if it may actually be wrong, I perceive it as an extra burden, not as a help. And that same is true with people in any corporation. Everyone has a lack of time. Everyone only wants tools that make life easier. That's the most important thing. And only if you have a very, very clear problem which you're already investing energy into solving, and something helps you solve it easier. Like for example, a very, very simple mobile application that gives you technical advice right now without any need to learn anything. So that's what we're providing right now and what people love. Anything beyond this is this danger that you come from your product driven mindset. You're in love with your own product and you hate the users for not loving it. It's just it's too complex. And I'm one of the people who's in continuous danger of that mistake.
Okay.
And who knows, maybe others as well. So I think that's something important to bear in mind. The other thing, if I may go on, the other thing
please, I urge you to.
One needs to bear in mind, if you look at any market these days, there is hardly space for local solutions. Right? You need one AI therapist to give therapy to all of China. Right? You need Spotify. You don't necessarily need Simfy or any other local music platform, right? Which some people learned the hard way, because it's a tough market. If one provider can potentially provide the whole market, you have 2 or 3 huge competitors, and it's very difficult then for a smaller provider. You need to find a niche solution, but every niche solution you create today could become a standard feature on a huge hyperscale platform next year, and that's a challenge. So from a provider's perspective, one might also just choose the strategy I just totally focus on human-to-human interaction, and companies also, I think, need to decide, do they want to use their own homemade or customized technology, which has a lot of advantage, but it could also mean that whatever they create this year might be outdated next year. So it's a very fine balance there, finding something that is really useful for the users, very, very easy to use and adapt, which is a big part of being useful, and that is somehow combining existing technologies in a way that it develops with the market. So integrate, that's my philosophy, by integrating existing technology, making sure that my product environment kind of grows with the technology as it grows, and not have unsurmountable competitors each new year.
If you allow me to interrupt here for a moment, because what you just mentioned sounds a bit dystopian, actually, as if there was some hyperscaler who could provide all the service for all of the world. What about the, say, small and medium and perhaps even large but not hyper businesses?
Right. Yeah. It's a very good point, because that might sound too gloomy and wouldn't be true. First of all, with any service, there's always a certain number of providers, always, still. And you wouldn't believe how many different, for example, online meeting platforms still exist, even though there are some very big ones. So first of all, that is a fact. The fact that you might only need one doesn't mean that only one exists, first of all. Secondly, there's a difference between a technology and a solution. Right now, there's a lot of technologies out there in AI, but turning that into a solution for a particular target group in a particular setting, that's the key. Because right now, actually using ChatGPT, whatever, DALL-E, whatever, for your benefit in your job, right now still acquires too much humans replacing the interfaces and too much knowledge and skill how to build it. So if one wants to, from both sides, provider side or corporate side, use existing technology, but create a solution package that very, very nicely fits into your environment, that meets your data security needs, and that content-wise, technically, whatever the content is, communication technique, whatever, that meets your exact needs. Those 3 points taken together, they make a real valuable product, and they are one reason why there's even, I would say, a huge market out there for HR solutions, and they're attractive for providers to provide, but also for companies to apply, because anyone can now use kind of the standard platform thing. But actually using it in everyday life, making it usable is the one thing, and to give that extra edge that it's your preferred technical environment and solution, that then still puts you ahead. So you might even make a case you have to do something because everybody has the new standard. There's a new normal now, which is pretty high in terms of AI support, and a tailor-made solution for a company, that puts you ahead.
Klaus, thank you so much for sharing all these very, very interesting, not to say stunning ideas and insights. If people like the way you are thinking and approaching things only half the way I do, then how could they get in touch with you if they want to meet you? Could you give us an idea how to approach you?
The usual channels. Find my name on LinkedIn. I may not be unique, but my name is, so you could find me there. And also maybe, Christian, you could maybe just provide some details when you publish the video.
So you allow me to do that. That's very nice. Actually, I wanted you to encourage me, because we're recording it right now.
Yes, you're welcome. I officially and under witnesses give you permission to hand out my contacts.
That's so nice to know. Thank you so much, Klaus. And I also have one more question. You mentioned the inspiration, and you mentioned so many, say, positive ideas about how artificial intelligence could support us. What do you think? Do you have ideas what kind of people I should meet in the future, like in this format, to make this happen, to facilitate this, that the world will actually become better with artificial intelligence?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Several came to mind while we were speaking, and I guess I can think of some more. Let me go through that list in my mind, get in touch with people, and if they're fine with it, I'll get you in touch. Is that okay?
That's absolutely awesome. Thank you very much, Klaus, and have a beautiful day. Thank you very much for all the work and the time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Bye now.
Bye. Thank you for joining our first live stream. It was a pleasure having you. Should you have follow-up questions or concerns or comments, please drop us an email to livestream@eligo.de. As you can see, we already scheduled the next date for 1st of December at the same time, so please save the date. And please consider signing up at www.eligo.de/livestream to allow us to keep you updated. Thank you very much for being our guest and have a beautiful day.